because the human psyche is immensely complicated. Fresh research is published every day that helps to explain why we are the way we are. While some psychological research corroborate pretty mundane psychology realities, for example, one University of Rochester study verified that people are happier on weekends. Others are extremely insightful. We've compiled a list of psychology facts that describe human nature and may help you understand some of the patterns you've noticed in yourself and others. Here are 20 mind-blowing psychology facts that seriously explain everything. 1. It hurts to be prepared every now and then. In a series of studies conducted by the University of Pennsylvania, researchers discovered that when participants considered a backup plan before beginning a task, they performed worse than those who had not. Furthermore, once they learned they had options, their desire to achieve the first time around waned. The researchers emphasized that planning ahead is beneficial, but you may be more effective if your goals are unclear. 2. Not everyone enjoys scary movies, but for those who do, there are a few hypotheses as to why, the most popular of which being that it has to do with hormones. You get all the adrenaline, endorphins, and dopamine from a fight or flight response when you watch a scary movie or go through a haunted house, but your brain recognizes that you're not truly in danger, so you get that natural high without the risk. 3. Even if you aren't sleepy, why do you yawn when someone else does? One of the most popular hypotheses for why yawning is contagious is that it demonstrates empathy. Adults who are less inclined to display empathy, such as toddlers who haven't yet learned it or young people with autism, are also less likely to yawn in response to another's yawn. 4. In a University of Pennsylvania study, one group learned about a tiny girl who was starving to death, while another group learned about millions of people dying of hunger, and a third group learned about both. When people heard about the little girl, they donated more than twice as much as when they heard the statistics, and even those who heard her narrative in the context of the larger tragedy donated less. According to psychologists, we're predisposed to help the person in front of us, but when the situation becomes too enormous, we assume our small contribution isn't making a difference. 5. One study published in Frontiers of Human Neuroscience found that when people are asked to recall items from a list, they are most likely to think of them from the very end or from the very beginning. The middle becomes jumbled, which could explain why you remember your boss wrapping up her presentation, but not the middle. 6. Our brains have a negativity bias that causes us to recall negative information more than positive information, which is why you quickly forget that a coworker appreciated your presentation, but keep thinking about how a child at the bus stop ridiculed your shoes. We need at least a 5-to-1 ratio of good to terrible in our lives to feel balance. 7. Have you ever wondered why, despite using the same ingredients, the sandwich from the takeout business down the street tastes better than the one you cook at home? According to a study published in the journal Science, when you prepare a meal for yourself, you spend so much time around it that it becomes less thrilling by the time you really dig in, lowering your enjoyment. 8. Researchers who published their findings in the journal Nature discovered that knowing something bad is about to happen, e.g., there's no way we'll make it to a meeting on time, is less stressful than not knowing how things will turn out, e.g., we might be on time after all. That's because when we don't know what to expect, the region of our brain that predicts consequences, good or bad, is most active. We'll go through the stress of pressing on the throttle to beat traffic rather than recognizing that we'll have to come up with a good excuse when, not if, we're late. 9. It's not simply good manners. According to the law of reciprocity, we're wired to desire to aid someone who has helped us. It most likely originated because people need to help each other to keep society running efficiently. Stores, and some foes, try to take advantage of this by offering freebies in the hopes that you'll spend money. 10. Psychologists have examined a phenomenon known as reactance, which states that when people feel their freedoms being taken away, They not only break the law, but they break it significantly more than they would normally in order to reclaim their freedom. This could be one of the best psychology facts to explain why an adolescent who isn't allowed to use his phone in class will sneakily send a text while chewing gum. 11. It's not your fault that your egotistical brother is always talking about himself. It's just the way his brain is designed. According to a Harvard study, our reward centers light up more when we're talking about ourselves than when we're talking about other people. 12. It's so cute I just want to pinch it. Cuteness aggression is what it's called, and those who have it don't really want to hurt that gorgeous puppy. When we're overwhelmed with positive feelings, like when looking at an unimaginably gorgeous infant animal, a little bit of anger helps us balance off that high, according to research published in Frontiers in Behavioral Neuroscience. 13. Researchers from the University of Glasgow discovered that, similar to how we hear voices in our thoughts when reading aloud, our brains similarly speak during boring presentations. If someone speaks monotonously, we subconsciously increase the intensity of the image in our minds. 14. People with high testosterone remembered information better when it was associated with an angry face than when it was matched with a neutral or no face, indicating that they found the angry look gratifying. According to the researchers, it could suggest that some people enjoy making others scowl at them, as long as the rage doesn't stay long enough to be dangerous, which could explain why that guy at work won't stop making that terrible joke at your expense. 15. Even people with the best memories in the world can have false memories. The brain generally remembers the gist of what happens, then fills in the rest, sometimes inaccurately, which explains why you insist your wife was with you at a party 6 years ago, even though she's adamant she wasn't. 16. Even when you think you're doing two things at once, research published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology demonstrates that you're actually moving between the two tasks quickly. You're still focusing on one at a time. It's no surprise that listening to your partner while browsing through Instagram is difficult. 17. Whether you like where you are now or not, according to research published in Current Biology, most of us have an optimism bias that convinces us that the future will be better than the present. We imagine ourselves progressing in our careers, never getting divorced, raising little angels, and living to a ripe old age. While not all of them are practical for everyone, there's no harm in fantasizing. 18. Humans are prone to confirmation bias, which is the tendency to perceive evidence in a way that supports our existing beliefs. So no matter how many data you throw at your uncle trying to persuade his political ideas, there's a strong chance he isn't going to move. It's one of the psychology facts you'll just have to accept that you can't change. 19. Your short-term memory can only hold on to so much information at a time unless you try one of the simple ways to improve your memory, which is why you use chunking to remember long numbers. For instance, if you try to memorize this number, 90,655,372, you probably naturally thought something like 906, 553, 72. 20. Our favorite music releases dopamine and other feel-good neurotransmitters, which is amplified when we're young because our brains are still developing. Everything seems more essential between the ages of 12 and 22, so we try to emphasize those years the most and hold on to those musical memories. Researchers have uncovered evidence that suggests our brains bind us to the music we heard as teenagers more tightly than anything we'll hear as adults, a connection that doesn't weaken as we age. What are your thoughts? Comment below.